Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Adventures Travel Club television show. We find ourselves outside the city of Randers in an outdoor museum, which is a Viking museum. And Betty, we're going to join him and see how we grind the goodies here.
You put the grain in here, and then just do like this, and the flour will be here. Different barrels for grain or whatever they would have. And then of course one would imagine that they would have had meat hanging from the big posts. Smoked meat, salted meat, everything they could have hanging, they would have done that, because that was the easiest way of having it, and also it prevented it from getting eaten by mice or rats or whatever. They would probably have smoked meat hanging in the living quarters because it would get smoked. So
Well, Betty, do you are you a little hungry? Maybe would you like to have some bread?
Well, I'm always ready for something to eat. Sure, that'd be fun. Let's do it.
Okay, those little utensils that you see there in the back, that's how some of the bread is cooked, and we're going to find out more about that and taste some of it too.
flat bread, and this flat bread is actually made from a recipe that we didn't find the recipe, but we found bread in a grave in the southwestern part of Denmark, and the recipe was made out of that bread. So you can actually you can taste Viking age bread. It tastes very, very nice actually, with honey and coriander, rye flour. It's very nice.
That's kind of crazy having to go to a tomb to get your recipe, huh?
Well, I know, but this was the custom. You know, you believe that the dead had to have something to eat too on their journey to the other land. But the thing that amazes me, Marv, is the way they grind the flour like that. I could think of biting down and saying, "Oh my gosh, there goes my tooth," you know, because you know, get a little bit of that metal as they grind it. Not metal, stone.
The stone,
yeah,
sure.
yeah, the granite.
I think that's happened. You know, I love these outdoor museums, living museums, I guess you could call them, because this really gives you a taste and a feel of how it really was back in that time that this is trying to portray.
Yeah.
And here, what we're going to do is we're going to cook some of the flatbread here. And you notice now, if you will notice in just a moment, everybody's timing it with their wristwatch, and they found out that you just cook this for a certain amount of time so you don't overcook it, and so it doesn't, burn.
Like our pancakes when we're at home and we watch the little bubbles on the top.
Yeah.
But you know, Marv, when I see the flatness, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'd love to have a can of Mexican refried beans and put on there and make me a tortilla. I'd feel like I'm home.
Well, maybe the Southern Vikings did that.
You think so? Well, I don't know, but
I'm not sure. Anyway, this was great, and we all got a taste of this as we cooked this. And then they had some freshly churned butter. The little lady over there at the little stand had some, and so that you could put some on that.
They are good. Actually, they had rather a little bit of a sweet taste to them, didn't they?
Yeah.
I don't know why they need to put more honey. Is it honey they're putting?
No, that's just butter. But he
butter
said you could go ahead, and put that on there. But look at these fields out on the. Isn't this beautiful?
I love the way they did their fences. We're so used to seeing fences made out of stones.
Yeah, and these are beautiful
Yeah.
fences. Now there's a shot of one of the older buildings, and it does look like, as mentioned before in our programs.
What is that? Excuse me.
That's the bellows.
The big wooden thing. I forget. That's what blows the air to bring.
But it looks like this because when you walk on it, it would would take a bit of it off. But when you sweep it, you can see that it's clay floor. That is flint. That is typical black flint. This is our interpretation of a typical blacksmithing from the Viking Age. The tools that we have here on the board are reconstructions of Viking Age tools. And you can see that these tools resemble the kind of tools that the little blacksmith would be using only 30 years ago in small Danish towns. There's not a big difference. This is for making metal threads. You pull the metal through a tool like this, and you use this because you can get it in your belt and then just go backwards. So that's for making space. But this is how we think it would be, and it is still working. I do work down here when I have the time, and make a few things, a few knives, a few striker lights, and other smaller things. But I don't make any swords, and I don't make any axes or anything. I don't have the technology in me, so I can't do the things that they could at that point. But they were very, very, very good blacksmiths at that time. They have the technology of doing what you would call Damascus swords. They had the technology of doing that kind of thing. So they were very good, and I don't have the technology, and I don't want to try doing it. So I just make normal knives, no Damascus knives for me. But I'm trying to do a bit, but well, it is fun to try. I can do a bit, but not very much. I did do this last week. I didn't quite finish it yet, but it will be finished in a few days. But it takes a long time. It takes a bit over a week to make that kind of knife. That also gives you a kind of idea of they didn't have any. They were not between 1,000 and 1,200 degrees Celsius.
Oh my! Ooh.
What are there to temper with?
It's not quite finished yet, as you can see, but we're still working on it. And you can see this house is a very good example of how the others were built, because the construction of this construction is the same in all the houses. The other houses have just been clay built on the outside and inside. So this house will come to look as the others when it's finished. It's all made of oak and willow branches, just like the fences.
I wonder if that would pass the planning commission.
I don't think so. But look at the great air conditioning they provide for you.
Well, I guess, afterwards they cover the outside of it too.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
Now we're going to leave the outdoor museum, and we're going to go just not even a mile down the road to the actual spot that they discovered where a real Viking village was. And so we're going to be able to see, portions of that. But Betty, I just love this countryside.
Oh, of course. Well, this is your home ground. It gets your heart just patting when you go by there and think, oh, Vikings, those were my ancestors.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. Well, it is a thrill, isn't it?
And we find out that they weren't all marauders, as it were. That they were really.
Well, I know, but
traders,
that's the glamorous part of them. You think about the Vikings and their adventuresome spirit. So you do have that part of it.
I guess so. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I've always wanted a sailboat. You suppose?
Well, no. What could be? Yeah, of course. But I'm thinking of the other things that they did along the way. But sure, sailing was their forte, wasn't it?
That's right. It was. Well, now, as we say, we're going to this other. We've also stopped here for lunch. So, and this is probably what looks like an old farmhouse, and you can see the thatch roof here. And then just a few steps from here, we're going to discover the area of the Viking village. But this was a great stop for lunch. It was just very, very pleasant.
Yes,
very nice. And this
good
to me
food,
is very good food. And the thing is, this to me is what traveling is all about. I mean,
what, eating?
Yeah, but I mean, taking your time and doing that. Here's another one of the buildings like we saw over in the outdoor village.
That's with attached roof?
No, this one is not.
Attached.
Yeah, no, but it's not actually. And here are some artist concepts of what those buildings must have looked like, and how they built these things. And I'm glad that they had that there, because otherwise you wouldn't quite know.
Can't visualize it, can you?
No.
Lots of trees, evidently, to use so much lumber.
Exactly. And here, if you will notice, we are now standing on the edge of a large, almost circle. And I believe it was explained that was sort of the fortification. And if you look at where they have put these little stones, it sort of outlines 4 quadrants within this area of how and where the houses of this particular village were all located. And the thing is that this mound is still here. I mean, you know, after centuries and centuries.
Is that Marv a natural? Is that mound a natural formation? Do you think
so,
it
no.
was done for fortification of themselves to give them
Yeah.
some protection?
I think that they built it around there so that it would be for fortification. But I just wanted to get some other shots here to let the folks see what the countryside looked like here, you know. And I'm sure that they probably were growing some crops out in this area too during the Viking
Well,
era.
they had to eat.
That's right. And we saw that they did, you know, grind even though there may be a few rocks in the in the wheat. So I'm sure that wheat and barley and rye were all crops that were used during that time, I guess I should say. But anyway, I want to give you kind of what a 360 degree look like here, and it's amazing that this is still here and is in good condition. Of course, the buildings are all gone naturally, but this is still left.
You get an idea about it, and you don't. It was not a really large settlement.
No,
you can see by the size.
And that's what it would have looked like. See, there's the 4 quadrants right there. No, I don't imagine that. I don't imagine you had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people there. But and there probably were other settlements, you know, like this. I would imagine around Denmark.
How easy it is to equate what we see as we go along with different areas, because I know in other places the Indians had the same type of, they laid out the rocks and they made their own little fortifications and their own dwelling places, and it lived as a clan. And so it isn't just here, it's so many places where we've traveled to see this.
And you're right when you say that. You know, it was the family unit that did develop into a clan, and those then clans became the little towns or villages, and that of course then grew into cities. Here you can see now there's the thatch roof, but the one before you saw was more like a shingle actually.
My house used to be that color.
That red?
I had
Really?
it, and I loved it. I had it that way for a long time. Then I painted it, or had it painted back to sort of that beigey, uninteresting color. But
that red color really works.
It was fun with
the
white shutters and a red house.
This is the inside of a mill. There's a water wheel that is running this, and I had never been in one of these before, and it was interesting to see. And you can see the gears. I mean, everything is made out of wood here, and they use the ropes, and then they can change the gears to drive the various mechanisms here.
So ingenious.
Isn't that something?
Yes. Now God gave them a brain, and they used it.
It certainly did. You know, I'll tell you, this was really something. But as I say, I had never been in one of these before, and I suspect if you want to take a look at those in this country, you'd probably have to go to the East Coast if there are any that are left there. You know,
or go to some restaurant down in Los Angeles and Hollywood.
Yeah, and you see that.
Well, in the foyer, you know, they have all these little, or maybe Vegas, where they'd have some wheels.
Yeah, Vegas for sure.
Vegas
I think.
for sure, right?
But anyway, this was a real one. This was an absolute real one, and I thought it was very, very interesting, and it really captured my imagination. And to see the water wheel working, and there's your old mill stream, Betty.
Isn't that beautiful?
It's
so
gorgeous.
peaceful.
It is. It is really very, very nice.
A little bit windy that day.
Yeah, but you know, a nice little breeze. Because we have to remember, you know, when we were in Scandinavia, the temperature got up to be in the 90s. I mean, people didn't expect. I didn't expect.
I
that.
know. Now bring clothes to get you warm, because it's going to be cold. I always say that, and then what happens?
At
It's
least
warm.
you can always peel the clothes off. But
Yeah.
this really absolutely amazed me that the weather in Norway and over in Sweden, the temperature just got to be so warm, which was really nice. Except, you know, it reminded me also, Betty, when we were in one of the times when we were in Ireland, and I don't know if you remember. I think it was the first time that we were there, and it wasn't raining at all. In fact, it had very warm, very, very warm weather, and all of these fair-skinned people were out getting sunburn.
Yeah.
I mean, really bad sunburns. And
I think the only rain we had that day was when we went to see the horse breeding farm, and then it came down.
yeah, as
But
it
it was thankful, just like when you go on trips and it rains and the people want it. It's wonderful.
It gives you a little bit of relief. Well, now we have left that particular area, and we're going into another village, and this is not Randers. This is outside of Randers, and we're going to find out a little bit more about this.
trying to make us use the public transportation. And I said they make little narrow streets and walking streets and one-way streets and make it expensive and difficult to park. Well, this is a good example of it. Because what do? We drive around and around using lots of petrol and polluting the air. I'm not sure it's quite what they had in mind.
Well, I think the thing we found out is that in a lot of these villages, in fact, we've seen this all over the world, where they have made a lot of these streets one-way streets, and it gets confusing even to the drivers that are there.
Yeah, but it makes it rather interesting. You know, Marv, I'm constantly amazed at how few cars we saw on this trip. There is no traffic, and well, I shouldn't say
very little.
There is none. There's very, very little, and no people walking around. I'm so used to being crushed with
well, you
people.
have to remember though too that this was really the vacation time for the Scandinavians. So a lot of them
they
had
left town.
had really left town.
They
right.
left town, and we came in.
Right, and we came in.
It had nothing. There's not coincidental.
No,
huh?
I don't
mean,
think
it
just happened. that way.
Okay.
Anyway, here's a beautiful church that we're in, and I was so struck by all of the artwork in here. And we can see now we're looking straight up to the ceiling, and you can see various scenes in the life of Christ that are here.
Look at the halos,
gorgeous.
the gold. Obviously, this has had to be redone recently because as old as the cathedral is, and with all the candles that are used during the services, there has to be a murky kind of, like they did in the Sistine Chapel.
cleaned
and
it up.
it's beautiful. This is just
Isn't it?
beautiful.
This is gorgeous. Look at that. The altar piece there looks like it's made right out of gold, and it could be, as far as I know. Look, and the angels. Look on either side of the altar there. The angels are holding the light fixtures here. I thought that was very interesting.
That's an angelic touch.
Very much so. And a large menorah that is right there in the center of the sacrament.
No, I like that. That's really
Beautiful.
nice. I know St. John's Cathedral has a menorah on display. Not on display, actually being used with candles in it and
Right.
stuff.
That's true. Look at these paintings, though, Betty. Aren't these beautiful up here? And you see
I didn't
the
count them.
apostles, and just beautiful. This is really something.
And what did you do? I don't remember. Did you lie down on your back and
Almost.
Huh?
Yeah, almost.
Okay. No wonder you complain about your back hurting you, huh? Or your neck mostly, I guess, huh?
Yeah, right. These paintings on the side were done in a little different style here, and you could
There's the close-up,
you
huh?
could see Judas. He was going off on that other painting. He was just leaving, but this I thought was really a wonderful piece of artwork
It's
here.
fun to visit the different churches and
is.
and
Because,
the works of art that you see.
Well, that's
here.
it. They are the repository, for art, and it's nice when you go in there and to see the styles here. And I've seen, we've seen this particular style of painting used in many other places.
They're
and
the repositories for art and
Music.
Peter and John and
and whoever else is
and
buried
whoever
under the
else.
floor, right?
Right.
That is quite
Yeah,
nice.
that looks like almost like the end of the world where everybody's paying homage to
judgment,
God, the
huh?
Judgment Day. But imagination works great things.
Well, I think that's why you really had a lot of paintings in the, when the Bible was not available, when it wasn't printed like today, you can run them off all the presses. You had to have paintings like this so people could actually visualize the scenes of.
Like they've done with the hieroglyphics and all the pictures that we saw in Egypt, all depicting all of the things that were taking place, in the temples and in the tombs. Yeah, it's the way of talking.
It is a way of talking, right? A very good one. And look what it's developed into: television.
Is that good?
It can be if you're watching Channel 49.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
I'll buy that.
You buy
I'll
that
buy
one?
that. But some of it, isn't worth the
we
film
hear-
that it's printed on.
We hear that more and more, and we hear more and more people say, I am so glad that I discovered Channel 49 because of the variety of programming that's available here. We're going to head now back into Randers, and as you notice, as we take pictures on the going around the countryside, we're never very far from water here in Denmark, and this is very, very nice, and I really like that. So what I do, I get shot some more boats, right?
Well, I think that's because you have this longing deep within you to have a boat and go sailing someplace, and
I
so
think you're
with the
right.
boats and the birds,
Right.
that's your department.
Okay, we're standing here in the Hotel Randers. Next to me I have Fru Mathisen, the proprietress of the hotel. And we'd like to ask Fru Mathisen a few questions about this lovely old hotel that we understand is celebrating its 141st birthday tomorrow.
That's true, yes,
yes.
It opened in 1856, the 22nd of July. Not by my family, but a rich merchandiser built it. But he was bankrupt 2 years after, as it goes today when they build hotel.
Right.
So it went bankrupt 3 times.
Oi.
Then came a very fine, brave, what would you call Sønderjyde?
A man from the south of Jutland.
Yes, more Schleswig-Holstein.
Oh, all the way where
old
now
Danish land,
yes,
but
now
now
Germany.
German. And of course, he came in 1862. And 2 years after, the Germans occupied Hotel Randers.
Oi.
And I have the only original photo of the occupation. It's in the little Martens restaurant.
Oh, right.
His name was Mr. Martens. So we have named the new restaurant after him.
After him.
Yeah. So the picture is there.
Will we be able to see this
Yes,
picture?
you will
Very
be able
good.
to see it. And I'll tell you who's on the picture.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. As you understand, the Hotel Randers has taken the name of the city of Randers here in Jutland also.
Yes.
Shall we continue
Sure.
into one of the other?
It's very difficult to translate.
You say it's an old Danish?
He was a Danish hero, and he saved the town of Randers from the German Count here in the year 1340 and the 1st of April. And there you have them. It's the same as the statue.
It's the same as the statue,
That's him.
yes.
And there you see the old woman come and give him a piece of bread. And that is what it's all about. Niels Ebbes søn,
Visited.
a churling. It is not killing in Danish, it is really a dear
A dear, yes.
woman. But it is old Danish from the, I
1300s,
would say
yes.
old Nordic language.
Right.
She only had 2 pieces of bread. The one she gave to Niels Ebbesen because he killed the German Count Gerd. You see, the Germans have always been after us.
Right, always, yes.
Always after us. That's it. There we have Mr. Martens. I only have a little picture of him. But then Mr. Martens come in. That's the first gentleman up there. In 1862. And he was here for 30 years. Then my family took over. And this is my family.
This is your family. I see.
Yeah. So we took over in 1892. So we have been here for 107 years.
Oh, wonderful.
Good tradition.
First occupation of this hotel in 1864 was a German occupation.
Of course.
Yeah. It is this there, little photo.
The top, yes.
Yeah, and they occupied the hotel. So the German general, his name was Falkenstein, the old gentleman with his troops, and they took over the whole hotel. And the host, named Martens, and his wife, and 9 children, they had 2 rooms for themselves.
Oi.
But the new things I just have known is that first Count Bismarck's son is a young officer hanging out of the window over here.
Oh.
Now, the hotel also had some other very famous guests, Victor Borge, and also the son of artist Paul Gauguin.
And Marv Harrison.
Yeah, this room is named the Gauguin room,
Right.
named after Jean-René Gauguin, the son of Paul Gauguin, the famous French painter.
Right.
But he was a ceramist, so he did all these tiles you can see in the restaurant here. Yeah, and also the figures, the figurines up there. He did that to our 100 years anniversary in 1956.
Right.
It was our own gift to ourselves.
From us to us.
We should have something with art. And you can see it is something with gastronomy to do, fish
and meats.
yeah.
That was his son. He did the figurines as well.
Yes, he was the son of the painter. He was visiting his father in Tahiti.
Oh, right.
Oh, he was telling a lot of stories when he was here.
When he came here, yeah. So now we tell the story of the piano.
Yes, Victor Borge. His name was Børge, you would say Borg Rosenbaum. And he changed his name when he went to America because he was a Jew and he didn't dare stay in Europe anymore because of Hitler. But he was here for 3 years, stayed in a hotel, and he had 35 kroner a day was his salary, and lodging and boarding.
So that was pretty good.
Yes, in those days. Yeah, 33.
That was not a bad pay.
No, that's right. So he was the one starting this one. It was quite new when he was if you tell your friends, yeah, they will all try to play.
I know some did yesterday already.
Yes, of course. Of course, yes. This is also Gauguin. He made that in 29, and this from 1956, like this. Can you see the square?
The square.
The square?
Square root.
Yes. Well, these two, they are very old. Oh, yeah, very old, but they are Peter's Kirchen, the Peter's Church in Rome. And it is very fine pieces. You know, the first 500, they're normally not good. And then comes a series. What do you call that in American print of? The sort of print.
When they print this type of thing, yes, what do you call that?
But this is one very fine piece. And this is, of course, Peter's Church outside and inside. Yeah, Peter's Church. I think it's number 8 out of the best series, and it means after the first 500 pieces.
Right.
So.
Meaning that these are very valuable.
Yeah, yes. They are valuable.
And this is going to be your private dining room this evening?
Oh yes, you can see reserved guides and bus drivers. This is,
yes.
we dine in style.
You dine in style.
Well, would you prefer to sit in there? No. Nej, det er mig, der har flyttet dig, for at sige det rent ud. Ja.
Well, we will join Sonia and Carol on our next adventure as we see more of this hotel, because there's some more exciting things to see around there too. But listen, if you're interested in any of the trips that we have coming up, please give Betty a call at
488-7443.
And we have brochures on a lot of our trips, so if you're interested, please give Betty a call and she'll send those out. Time for us to say goodbye. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.